Alrighty guys, welcome back to the YouTube channel. We got something pretty cool today. Most of you may know I recently installed the Wolfbox G900TriPro rear mirror dash cam and backup camera into my 1985 Corvette. And today we're going to be working on my 97 Suburban. I've been very happy with the G900TriPro in the Corvette. So today we have something even cooler. We have the Wolfbox G900TriPro, which is the same G900Pro, except now we have a 3-channel dash cam, which takes 3 different cameras. So we will have the dash cam camera. We'll have the rear camera again, but now we're also going to have a front bumper camera, and this is marketed towards off-roading and also for towing. So you can put a bumper trail camera on your front bumper. That way, if you're on a steep incline, you can see everything on the road ahead of you instead of just looking up at the sky. So I'm going to do a quick unboxing of the TriPro, show you what's included, and then we're going to get right into the installation into this 1997 Suburban. This will apply to all of the GMT400 trucks. For the pickup trucks, you will just put them on the license plate. For right now, I'm hoping to put my rear camera up top on the third brake light. That way I can have a nice view from top down of everything that's behind me. It'll be great for towing. When I'm towing the Corvette or any other cars or any trailer for that matter, I'll be able to get a clear view of everything that's behind me from the top down. All right, so first things first, let's get to a quick unboxing. So right away, we'll start with the big package, the G900TriPro itself. You can see this is a diagram of all of the connectors and parts of the camera. We have G900TriPro here. We'll pull this paper back, and right away we have the camera and screen itself. Of course, there is a protective film on this that we will remove after installing. For the most part, this thing looks exactly the same as the G900Pro regular camera that doesn't have the 3-channel, but you can see it has the TriPro marking there. The same camera here, that is a 4K Sony sensor camera. And the only difference really is up top, you have an extra port for the third camera. So we have the rear camera USB-C here. We have the GPS input, that is your included memory card. And then we have the third camera port here, and then the power USB-C. The TriPro includes a license plate mount for the rear camera, which is this right here. That is how I mounted my G900Pro to the Corvette. And we can see everything is very nicely packaged right in here. We have the Dashcam quick guide. We have a couple wiring directions and things you can do for the third front camera. And that comes in the user manual right here, which is a nice little booklet. We'll take a look at that in a minute here. And then moving on, we have all of our actual parts itself. So here we have the power supply cable with the car charger. We are not going to be doing that. We are going to be hardwiring this into our fuse panel. We have the rubber straps to hook the G900Pro to our stock mirror. Then we have a couple accessories like nuts and bolts. Down in this one, we have the GPS module right here, the rear camera, a pry tool which is included, and cable clips. And then in this one, we have the extra long rear camera cable that is for trucks and SUVs, and we have the bumper camera as well. As you can see, we have the extra long truck and SUV rear camera wire. This is a whole boatload of wiring, so there is no way I'm going to be running out of wire length for this Suburban, despite how massively long it is. And that's for the rear camera. And then here we have the front bumper camera, which is nicely wrapped in a weather-resistant wire loom. Since this is going on the outside of the truck and going to the front bumper, you want to have that extra protection from rocks, chips, dirt, etc. It's very nice of Wolfbox to include that thought. I didn't even expect them to do that. It's nice and heat shrinked here. This should be perfectly weather tight. And that is the bumper camera right there. And in this other box, we have the rear camera here, the GPS module. They've even included some zip ties, as well as the stick-on cable ties. And here is the mounting plate for the rear camera for however you choose to do it. Again, you could use the license plate mount, or you can use the sticky mount, which is likely what I'm going to do for my third brake light up here, if I choose to go that route, which as of now I'm planning to. I will have to take a look at the routing directions that I want to go with and go from there. They also include a pry tool for all of the plastic trim when you tuck the wires behind, and they were even, again, nice enough to include a cleaning cloth for the camera lenses. And in this box, we have, again, all of the rubber straps to hook the G900Pro to your factory mirror. You have even more mounting hardware and methods for your second and third cameras. Another mounting option for here for the rear camera. And you have your cigarette lighter port option. Again, we are not going to be using this. I will be hardwiring this into the truck. And that gives me the ability to use every feature of the G900TriPro, including the parking surveillance, which is my favorite feature of these G900 Pros. The G900 Pro and TriPro will stay on while the car is parked. It will detect any collisions, and it will start recording for you if somebody hits your car while you're away from it. You can also set it to a time-lapse mode, whether it be 12-hour or 24-hour, to ensure that you are always protected 24/7 no matter where you are or if you're parked or not. Now we will get to our accessory bag, starting with this one right here. Starting with this bag, we have just about every option possible for your fuse taps. They give you every single possible option for a fuse tap size. This will cover 90%, if not every car on the market today and in the past as well. So different sizes. Again, my Corvette used this big size. Today we are using our secondary interior fuse panel, so we're going to be using a smaller size. This is the low voltage cutoff for the camera. It will turn the camera off during the parking mode at 11.8 volts for a 12 volt power supply system. And they give you another pry tool. So that's 2 pry tools. And then this is just an installation booklet and some other info about the Type-C hardwire kit. Sorry for the noise, guys. Once again, I live right next to a main road. I hope you can still hear me okay. Hopefully someday we'll be out of this location and into our own spot. Next up, we have this bag right here. And that bag right here just includes your polarization film cap that you put onto the G900 Pro's main front camera. And this is a polarizing filter. And all the polarizing filter does is it reduces the reflections of your windshield or any lights on your windshield, anything like that. It just clips on right onto the front camera. And lastly, we have this one last bag right here. And this is just a nice little branded Wolfbox Velcro patch that you can stick onto anything. I'm probably gonna put one of these on my travel duffel bag. All right, guys, that includes the unboxing and information on what's included in the G900TriPro box. Now we're going to get right into the installation, starting with taking a look at the fuse panel on the driver's side up there. As some of you may know, with these GMT400 trucks, you have your main fuse panel right here, which includes all of your engine fuses and everything else that's important. These are mostly larger fuses, and you have some smaller ones in there as well. We are not going to be using this fuse panel and tapping that one, just because we want to try to stay in the interior as much as possible to make our wiring job a whole lot easier. So I'm going to go ahead and close the hood here. And we're going to go into the driver's side, and we will see our driver's side interior fuse panel right here. And this is the one that we're going to be using. So we will find a accessory and constant power fuse from here, and we're going to be tapping that and running the wires up the A-pillar to the G900TriPro on the mirror right here. So once again, first things first, we have to find 2 fuses. We need to test with a multimeter for a constant fuse and an accessory on fuse. So you need a constant fuse to power the G900TriPro itself, and you need an accessory fuse that turns on when the key is on, and that gives the signal to the TriPro to turn on the camera and the screen and start everything up. I know I already mentioned this in my Corvette G900 Pro installation video, but you don't want to use any very important fuses just in the case of something going wrong. For example, you don't want to use your hazard fuses, probably not your gauges. Cruise control you probably don't want to use. You definitely don't want to use crank or airbag or wipers. You don't want to use your PRNDL, that is your shifter. You don't want to use your 4-wheel drive fuse or pretty much anything like that. All right, so I think my plan for now is I'm going to essentially copy exactly what I did with the Corvette. I'm going to use the cigarette lighter as a constant power, that is fuse number 13, that's a 20 amp fuse. And for accessory power, I'm planning on using the radio, that is fuse number 17, that's a 10 amp fuse. But again, we are going to test this with a multimeter to ensure that the fuses that we want to use are a constant power and an accessory power. All right, so to test the voltage, we will once again take our multimeter and we're going to turn this to 20 volts DC right here. You can see 20 volts and you should read 0. And then we will pop out the fuse we want to measure so that we can stick the probe in and keep it there and find a ground. All right, with the cigarette lighter fuse 13 pulled, we're going to go ahead and put our black probe onto a ground. I'm going to be using this whole metal bar as a ground. This is my trailer brake, and you can see that it's already grounded right there. Sorry for the focus. That is the ground for my trailer brake. So I know this bar is a nice, clean, unpainted metal surface. So I went ahead and stuck my black multimeter probe right in there, and that'll be our ground test. And then from there, you can see we are reading 0 volts. We will take our red probe and we will stick it into the fuse number 13, and you can see we are getting 12.42 volts. So that is hot constant. We are always getting power to that cigarette lighter fuse. We know it is not accessory. The key is not in the ignition right now. For the sake of organization, I'm going to pop that fuse back in, and we will go ahead and test our radio fuse, which is fuse number 17. That is a 10 amp. Fuse number 17 is right here. We can see that it is a 17 with a red 10 amp logo on it. So we know that's our radio fuse, and we'll go ahead and test if that gets power only with the key or constant power. All right, with our ground still in place on our dash brace bar, we will go ahead and confirm once again 0 volts going. Obviously we're not touching anything. And from here, we're gonna find fuse 17 and we're gonna touch it to the fuse, and you see we get no voltage. And then to test if it's accessory, I will put the key on and put it into accessory position. And then we will once again go to fuse 17 and touch the probe to the fuse. And you can see we are now getting 12.21 volts. That means this is accessory only when the key is on. So those are the two fuses that we're going to be using. Now we have to make sure they fit and will close properly. So now we will go ahead and pick our proper size of fuse tap to fit our fuse slots. And that is these ones right here. They are sort of the middle size. So this is a very small one. And then we have the larger one, which I used on the Corvette. And this is sort of a middle one. Then we have this one right here, which I'm not even sure what that's for. I'm assuming it's just some kind of fuse on newer cars. I've never seen them before personally. So these are the two that we're using. Once again, we need two of them. One for battery constant and one for battery accessory. Also guys, remember, just like I said in my last video, these fuse taps are directional. So the 12 volt in comes in on whatever side is opposite to the wire going out. So it'll be 12 volt in on this side and it'll go this way. So that means we have to ensure that our 12 volt in is in the proper orientation, and that will look like this, opposite to where the wire goes. And also don't forget that if you are taking the place of one of your stock fuses, you do have to put that stock fuse into the open slot on the fuse tap. So that is the fuse tap's own fuse, and that is the stock cigarette lighter fuse. Sorry about that, it's turning off. So make sure you guys put that into the open slot. Again, this is the cigarette lighter fuse, that's the 25 amp, and we are good to go. Then from there, we will simply go back to our cigarette lighter fuse location and pop the fuse tap right in place of it. As you can see, it perfectly cleanly fits right over that larger fuse right there. And we have a nice flush surface, and we have the wiring, which we will run down in here to go below the dash. And we will do the same thing with our 10 amp radio fuse. As you can see, I put it into the open slot, and then we will go ahead and put it back into our fuse spot right here. That is fuse number 17, and press it right in. As you can see, we are both flush mounted. Everything looks good and organized. These are two of our fuses. Again, our constant power and our accessory power. And that is the cigarette lighter fuse and the radio fuse. Last but not least, we have to connect our ground wire, and then we can go ahead and test the camera and make sure everything works with the constant power and the accessory power. Make sure that it works when we turn the key on and off. And that is about it. So once again, the ground I'm planning on using, I'm just gonna tap into the same exact fuse that was put in for my trailer brake, which again is this one right here. That looks like, I believe, a 10 millimeter. So I'm going to pull that out, and then I will attach my ground and we can test out the camera. So that's actually an 8 millimeter bolt right there. And I just want to mention also, these trucks don't come stock with a trailer brake. This was installed aftermarket by the previous owner. So you guys likely won't have that same ground strap there. But it looks like what they did is just drill in and put their own ground strap. And you can do that along any point of this whole entire metal bar. So if you want it most convenient, you can even just drill a hole right here and install your own ground strap. I'm going to be using that one just so I don't have to drill another hole. Just makes it easier for me. And I will use the Wolfbox included stick on wire holder clips and run it along this way. So with that bolt loosened, you will simply take the G900Pro's ground wire strap, which is this one right here, and you will just put it behind the bolt like so, and then you will tighten that bolt back up. You can see the ground wire is now attached in there. Now with our ground strap firmly attached, we can go ahead and plug these leads into the fuse taps we put, and then we can plug that box into the camera. Again, we're just testing the camera here, making sure our fuse taps are good, so we don't have to worry about running the wires just yet. So with these, once again, you can see we have ACC for accessory, and then we have B+ for battery positive constant. So ACC will plug into our radio fuse tap, which is this one right here, and the battery constant B+ will tap into our cigarette lighter fuse tap right here. So now that we have our ground, our accessory, and our battery constant fuse hooked up, we can go ahead and plug in the camera and ensure that everything works. As you can see, the camera is turning on since I just plugged it in for the first time. And what we will do from here is test our accessory fuse. So we're gonna go ahead and take the key and put it to the accessory run position, and we'll see if the Wolfbox G900TriPro turns on. All right, so as you can see, with the key on, the camera turns on. That's just telling me the rear camera is not connected. We can make sure everything works. We can scroll through all of our settings here. Everything looks to be good. You can clearly see the rear camera is working. Even though we have a cover on it right now, it is detecting light. So that looks good, and we will go ahead and turn the key off, take it out, and the camera turns off. So that is exactly what we're looking for. Our fuse taps are good, our ground is good, the camera is working. And just a quick note for you guys, if you find that the camera is starting up, it's booting and then shutting off and booting up and shutting off in an endless cycle, that likely means that your ground is bad. So you're gonna go ahead and want to test the ground again or find a new ground. In my case, everything looks to be good. So what we're going to do now is start tucking our wires and running them back, making everything nice, neat, and organized. My plan is like the Corvette. I'm going to tuck around the fuse taps down here, and that will go to the back of the dashboard. And then I can hook up these wires and keep everything nice and organized. And that way we can also ensure that our fuse panel door closes. We don't want these wires pinching and sticking out of the fuse panel door. So that's why we have to run them to the rear. You can also run them down there, pretty much any gap you see, just to get them out of this flush door, and you're going to be good to go. Alrighty, and from here we're going to take our very fancy wire fish tool. I'm just kidding, guys. This is literally a metal wire coat hanger that I cut up and I took the rubber coating off of, and that allows us to fish a wire down to the dashboard and below it or anywhere else you want to go. So what I'm going to do is stick the wire fish tool I made right down here, and then that will go down below the dashboard and it will come out right here. You can see it wiggling there. So then from here, we're going to tape our 2 power wires to the wire fish tool, and we can pull them on up through our hole. All right, and from there, all you have to do is simply pull the wire up. Be gentle so that the tape doesn't fall off. And once it is here, you can just grab onto it and pull it like so. So now you can see we have our wire running from the bottom down up behind our fuse panel, and we can plug it in right here and it'll be nice and neat. Now that the battery constant is ran, I will go ahead and do the same thing with the accessory wire. All right, now that our wires are ran up behind the dash and are plugged into our fuse taps, we have our ground strap secured. We can go ahead and one more time and test out the G900TriPro to make sure everything's working and that it comes on with the key and turns off with the key. Key is on, and the G900TriPro turns on as it should. One more time, make sure everything is working correctly. The camera is not turning off, it's not stuck in a boot loop, so the ground is good. And we will take the key out, and the camera turns off, just like it should. All right, everything looks good. Our wires are ran. Now we will tuck them up under there, and we can start installing our USB-C wire by running it up the A-pillar, below the headliner, and to the factory mirror. And now we can go ahead and put our fuse panel cover back on like so. Everything is nice, and we will go ahead and tuck our wires and our low voltage cutoff box up below the dash. I'm going to use zip ties and the included clips that came with the Wolfbox G900TriPro. All right, I've used 2 of the included wire securing clips. One is right here and one is right here for the ground. I'm going to leave slack in this for right now while I go ahead and route the USB-C. What I'm going to do for that is route it this way. I'm going to put it behind this panel that holds the hood release. I'm just going to tuck it behind there. You want to make sure that you have it out of the way of the parking brake and the parking brake release mechanism. All right, our low voltage cutoff box and our power wires are nice and neatly zip tied up right here like so. This is the low voltage cutoff box. That is the wires to it. I'm going to go ahead and snip this excess zip tie. And all we are left with is the USB-C, which we can go ahead and run through behind this plastic trim and up the A-pillar. This A-pillar trim just pops right out with clips. You just yank on it real hard, and then you can tuck the wires back there through the headliner and then to the mirror like I said. Now I will take the Wolfbox included panel prying and wire tucking tool, and I will simply tuck the wire back behind the dashboard trim like so. This is very simple. You just go along up here, and then I'm going to go back there and then behind the A-pillar trim. Now that we've gotten the black USB-C wire tucked behind the dash panel, we're going to stick it behind the A-pillar here, and that's where I'm at right now. And you'll just run it up and keep on tucking it. All right, so I ran the USB-C wire right up here in this crack here, and then I tucked it behind this overlap in the plastic trim and right back here. And I simply pulled this back with the pry tool, and now I am tucking it up against the A-pillar. All right, and now we were completely up and tucked behind the A-pillar, and now we're going behind the headliner here. You'll use the tuck tool or your fingers or both, and just pull it down and tuck the wire behind the headliner. As you can see, we just lucked out on the length of this wire. It is the perfect length to go to the G900TriPro once we mount it up here. Now I will go ahead and pop the A-pillar back in just by smacking on it, and we are good to go. Beautiful. Our wire is installed and tucked. Can't even tell a single thing. Looks completely factory until you take this off, and you can see that there. But even then, we have full access to our fuses. We can pull out the fuse taps anytime, and we're good to go. And just like we did with the Corvette, we will take our mirror straps, hook them up on top, and we will come to the back, wrap them around, and hook them on the bottom like so. Now that the G900TriPro screen is hooked onto the factory mirror and is in place, we'll go ahead and plug it in. And now one more time, you guys don't have to do this, but I like to test to make sure no wires were tugged and everything looks good. I'm going to stick the key in and put it into accessory position, and we'll see if it turns on. And we are looking good. The camera is turning on. Once again, we get that rear camera message. Everything looks to be working properly. And from here, we can go ahead and take off the camera lens protector. And we have the G900TriPro front camera and screen installed properly. Again, no swiping yet because we don't have the other cameras connected, but everything looks to be working as it should. And we will go ahead and turn it off. Perfect. That's exactly what we want to see. Now we can go ahead and move on to installing the rear camera all the way back there. Alrighty guys, this next part is a bit tricky, so bear with me. First, you're going to want to take off the cover for your rear ceiling speakers. The speaker is just a small, I believe it's a 4x6. That pops out there. There is 4 7mm bolts for the speaker. This just pops out by simply curving it down and pulling these tabs out. And once you get those 4mm out, you will then unplug the speaker, which is right here. And from there, you can see that our third brake light wire harness actually goes from that speaker hole to right here. You can see I have my wire fish tool that I made, and it sticks out right here. So you'll want to stick the wire fish tool down from here. If you look inside, I'm not sure if you can see it, but there is a small hole drilled in there, and you'll stick the wire fish tool straight down along the lines of this wire. And then what we're going to do is tape the camera wire right here, and we're going to stuff it down in that hole. Alrighty guys, it is not as bad as it seems. The hole is plenty big enough to fit the camera wire plug. As you can see, it is wired in there, and we can go ahead and pull the wire down through, and that's when we're going to wire it through our headliner up to the front of the truck for the G900TriPro mirror to plug into. As you can see, this wire fish tool really saves the day. You just tape the camera wire right to it and you pull it on through. Be very gentle with it. You don't want to tug on it as to not cut any wire insulation and also not have this fall off of the wire. Alrighty, we are looking pretty good. I made this tiny little cutout with a reciprocating saw so I can feed the wire, and then I'm just going to kind of press it up against here. And I might seal this up just in case, because this factory foam that seals the third brake light was a little kind of deteriorated. It wasn't in the best shape, and then also I have just like a tiny little gap here, so I might seal it up with some RTV or some kind of black gasket maker. But other than that, the camera's in well. Right now I literally just have it sandwiched on there. I flipped the little the mounting plate around, so it's being sandwiched and held down by just the screw force of the third brake light itself. And like, it's pretty good. So I can close the barn doors just fine. It clears it, it doesn't hit. And you know, there's plenty of room there. And you know, it looks pretty good. I just took it for a test drive to see how the angle looks and see if I like it. And I'm happy with it, because if you think about it, you know, the camera's here and my mirror, my factory mirror would be about this level. So the camera is only a couple inches higher than the factory mirror's level. Like if you look right here, it's straight across there, you know? So I think this level's fine. I would prefer it, especially for a truck, I would prefer it up top rather than on the bumper mount, because up top I can see a nice bird's eye view of my trailer or any cars behind me. I can see kind of high up, and that's kind of what I like about it. And that's why I went this route. There is another option for you guys. If you don't want to go the route of going through the third brake light, what you can do instead is leave it in the interior, run the wire over here. And what most people do with these G900 Pros and TriPros for their SUVs is they'll run the camera right here. Issue with that with barn doors is you have the solid line here, so you can't put it directly in the middle, otherwise it's blocked. And if you were to put it off to the side here, it's kind of blocked by this. So you would have to get it down low enough for the window, which would be like right around here. So it would have to be at this level pretty much. And so you can do that. Why I didn't want to do that was because I use this as a truck. I haul a whole lot of stuff in here all the time, and I very often haul big things that take up literally the entire space of the cargo area, the entire height. So I don't want to risk something hitting the camera when I'm hauling something. And I don't know, I just don't like how it's less clean when it's just hanging down here. That's what everybody else does, but I decided to go the extra mile and go through my third brake light, so that way I have a full top-down camera. Everything's okay. Obviously these are waterproof, so no worries about that. But I'm pretty happy with the route I went with this. I'll show you guys how it looks on the screen in a little while. But for right now, let's continue with routing the wire from this camera up to the G900 Pro up front. Right now I literally just have it running over my seat so I could test it out, but I'm going to go ahead and actually tuck the wires now. All right, so now to tuck the wires up, from here you're gonna yank down this trim, again, just more clips, and you're gonna tuck the wire back through the headliner and it can come out right over here. And from there, we're gonna go down to the driver's side and we're gonna go over the entire headliner all the way up to the front. You're just gonna tuck it like normal. I'll show a little bit, but it's pretty self-explanatory. You literally just tuck the wire behind the headliner until you get up to that, again, the A-pillar where we tucked the original USB-C wire. Then you move it on over. Pretty simple stuff. And similar to what I did with the Corvette, I don't plan on using the reverse light sensor. What this does is when you put the truck in reverse or the car in reverse, it will show parking lines on the backup camera. It'll automatically flip to the backup camera, and you get options for putting it low, medium, high in terms of the camera angle. I'm not going to use it for now. If I do want to use it, I'm going to keep it here just in case. All you do is you wiretap to the rear reverse light, and that's about it. And so that you do have that option. I'm just gonna electrical tape this end here, and I'm gonna tuck it up here, and I'm not gonna use it for right now. I might do it in the future. All right, we are now nice and neatly tucked. Our trim is back in place and our wire is starting to run along the side. We're gonna put back our speakers here and then put back our speaker covers. Alrighty guys, it is day 2 now. It's nice and sunny today. We had some rain this morning, but it's much better now. I want to say the only reason this has taken me so long is because I have to record these videos. It makes the whole process take a lot longer. Recording makes the video take longer, and it also makes the process look shorter on camera. But anyway, we have the front and the rear camera installed. Everything is working correctly, and we are moving on to the third bumper camera now. So now we have to find a place to go from interior to exterior once again. As you guys saw, for the rear, we went through the third brake light, but for the front, we're gonna have to drill a hole. So what I decided to do is follow the guidelines of what people typically do for these GMT400 trucks when installing a subwoofer and an amplifier. Obviously, you have to drill your own hole through the firewall to get from exterior to interior. So I'm using the same location that most people do, which is coming under here on the passenger side. You take this plastic trim off right here. That just pulls right off. And then you peel the carpet back. Nothing's holding that on. And if you look right here, there is a slope up and a bit of a cavitation that goes like that. You're going to want to find that cavitation and go as far right as possible, and that's where you're going to want to drill your hole. So as you can see, I drilled mine right here, right in the corner of this cavitation, and I have my wire fish tool coming right through there. That hole will lead straight down from here. I have my coolant reservoir taken off for the moment, just so I can get better access back there, but it'll go straight down and I can show you through the fender well. Here is my wire fish tool, and there's the hole. So you can see where that comes out. I drilled a pilot hole to start, and now I'm going to drill it out just to be a bit bigger so that we can run our third camera wire. And now that our front access hole is drilled, we can go ahead and mount up our front camera so that we can get everything placed and run the wires. All right, now we're going to come down to our front bumper here, and you can see there's a tab right in the middle here. There's already a factory drilled hole, but that's way too big. So what you want to do is use a smaller drill bit, and you'll want to drill a pilot hole. And then what I did from there was I just stuck a self-tapping screw in there, created some thread so that it's the right size, and then you will take your third camera bracket. I also put a self-tapping screw through there just to make sure the size is the same. And now I'm just going to use the self-tapping screw to screw this right on. If your GMT400 truck has one of these license plate mounts, mine does not, this is my other Suburban, then I would recommend simply drilling right into the plastic and mounting the camera to this. It's actually even better since you don't have to drill into your bumper. You're just drilling into a $10 plastic license plate mount. All right, as you can see, we are nice and drilled up here. It is solidly attached. Now all we have to do is tighten up our camera bracket screws so that we can point it this way. All right, we are all mounted up now, and now we can go ahead and run our wires to the interior. Now that we have our camera mounted and our hole drilled, we can stick our wire fish tool back in, and then we will tape the other end to the camera wire and pull it on through the firewall. Our wire is ran through the firewall, and then if we go down here, runs over the side, right down here where I have it zip tied, and along behind the suspension. Don't want to get away in the suspension travel at all. Zip tied to this other wire loom right here, and then it goes to this hole, right into the frame rail. And it comes out on the front tow hook. You can see that, maybe not. There you go. And then it is zip tied through that hole and to the camera. Now that we have that done, we are ready to start running the wire up through the passenger side A-pillar and then to the middle camera once again. Now we have ran our wire and tucked it behind the headliner, and we are over to the A-pillar now. And what we're going to do from here, in order to pop this A-pillar back, we have to remove this passenger side handle. That just pops off with these little tabs, and then in there is a bolt, and these are going to be a 10 millimeter. All right, our wire is ran behind the A-pillar. Our grab handle is nice and tight, and you can see it's coming down the side of the dash right here. And from here, I'm going to tuck in all of the excess wire into this square. That gets covered by the plastic trim that goes back here. Wolfbox provides you with a whole bunch of extra wire. This will fit in pretty much any truck or SUV. Now that that's done, I'm going to take some gasket maker or RTV, maybe even Flex Seal, and I'm going to seal up the hole and make my own moldable grommet, essentially. All right, we have a nice bead of RTV gasket to seal up that hole, and now we wait an hour or so for it to dry. We can start reassembling everything. Last but not least, we have to run the GPS. Same thing as before, guys. Plug it in here, run it along the headliner and down the A-pillar on the passenger side or driver side, it's up to you. And then you simply unpeel the sticky pad right here and you put it onto the dash facing up. You can see it says up right there on it. There you go. Alrighty guys, our RTV gasket dried, our carpet is in place, and we put our plastic trim back. Let's go ahead and try out the Wolfbox G900TriPro, which we have now completed the installation for. Alrighty, it's starting up here. Let's see how it looks. Nice. So that's the 3 camera. That's the rear camera, bumper camera, and dash camera right here. We can go ahead and swipe. That's just the rear camera. Everything works as it should, moves up and down. The bumper camera, same here. And the dash camera, same here. Everything is looking good. Our touchscreen is working flawlessly. We can run through all of our settings here. And let's confirm that it turns off with the key. Beautiful. Alrighty guys, here's a quick look at the dash cam while we're driving. As you can see, it is a massive improvement over the stock mirror looking out back at those barn doors. Pretty much can't see anything in these GMT400 Suburbans when they have the barn doors. Even with the tailgate, the liftgate, you still can't see much just because of how long they are. But the barn doors definitely makes it worse. And as much as I love the barn doors, that's really their only issue. But as you can see, the G900TriPro makes it a world's difference. It is a whole lot better. I'll show you guys some more clips in just a second. All right, so here's a quick look at what the stock mirror looks like. Again, all you can see back there are barn doors. And it seems like there's pretty much nothing there, right? You might see the roof of a car. There is a whole car right behind me, and that is the after. So that's the big difference that you can see there. You can see everything, and if I wanted to, I can even aim it down so I can see right at the bumper. You can see my barn doors here as a reference point, and that's what I can see behind me. So that is after and before. Big difference, guys. If you got a GMT400 truck, Suburban, Tahoe, whatever it is, I highly recommend getting one of these. It just makes a world's difference. If I want to see my bumper, that is it right there. If I'm parking really close, maybe if I'm parallel parking, I can get up right on the inch of whoever's in front of me. I can also see who's behind me. And once again, that is the regular dash cam. We are looking perfect, guys. That is another successful installation of a Wolfbox G900 line product. Remember, guys, check out the link in the description and use the code FIGHTERJET10. That gives you $10 off your purchase of any Wolfbox product, and that can be combined with any other discounts that Wolfbox is running on their site. So be sure to use that link. It also supports the channel, so I really appreciate it if you do. Thank you guys for watching, and have a good one.